Dee, I've never been so cold as this past week.
Really? We dodged that snow that I talked about last weekend, and now we're really hot. Now it's
Oh my
supposed to be
gosh.
90 today. So, you know what I've been out doing? I've been out planting. What about you?
Yes, I have not been out planning. It's starting to warm up a bit. We've still
Hmm.
had a few frosty mornings. Yesterday morning was really cold. Friday morning was really cold. We should say this is Sunday. But, up at the greenhouse on Saturday, I stopped by there and
Yeah, what are
there
they
were
buying?
people, they were buying frost tender
Tomatoes.
plants. No, not
Yeah.
tomatoes. Some people bought geraniums, which would be okay.
Yeah, probably.
And, but anyway, that's
I
here.
bet, I
How about
mean,
there?
here they can do it, but whatever. It's time to start gardening, and it's time to start this episode.
That is right.
Welcome to the Garden Angelist, where we chat about flowers, veggies, and all the best dirt. I'm Dee Nash from Guthrie, Oklahoma, where I've already downsized my country garden.
You're going to have to fix that. And I'm Carol Michael from Indianapolis, Indiana. I have a suburban garden measured in square feet. It's about a third of an acre.
And mine is still an acre. We are Garden Angelists because we love gardening and we would like you to love it as much as we do.
Yes, we would. And we aren't afraid to tell all of our gardening secrets, the good, the bad, and even the ugly. But that's enough of that. Let's move on to this week's episode. Hello, Dee.
Hello, Carol. How does your garden grow in this still frostiness? I bet the
Well,
violas are happy, right?
violas and pansies are extremely happy. The peas are up. They're
Hmm.
about 3 inches tall, which is good.
Mine
Starting to
too.
see little bits of lettuce, kale, spinach, radishes pop through, which is also good. There's lots of flowers blooming. Um, I only had time to do a little bit of weeding this past week between the weather and then, oh
Hmm.
gosh, I had to go around and visit every single neighbor in the neighborhood because we're changing our HOA amendment and everybody had to get
Right.
a ballot. And it seemed like, the board's like, we'll just hand out these ballots, which turned out to be Carol will
Carol.
hand out these ballots. But I did get some help from another member after a while. But anyway, Palace of patio propagation. Seedlings are coming up in there, especially the verbena, the vanity that we got from All America Selections,
Hmm.
and Bampton. They're both really good. Hollyhocks look good. Saw like one delphinium seedling. So, and I've seen not hide nor hair of all those poppy seeds that I cast around the garden all
Really?
winter. No, not a one.
Huh.
But anyway, and then I did help my sister, my younger sister, repot her houseplants. We might have killed
Hmm.
one because I had to cut a lot of roots off to fit it into the new pot. It's a long story. And I did go to the
Okay.
greenhouse and got a flat of violas.
Okay, good. Which
Yeah,
ones?
just
Which
violas.
color?
Oh,
Just violas.
it's a mixed flat.
Got it. Okay, so something you said about your stuff all coming up,
Uh-huh.
I made a fatal mistake. So
Uh-oh.
I bought back to the roots seed starting soil. So it should have been for seeds because I knew it was made of natural materials. So we
Right?
didn't want those big chunks of stuff in there. My verbena vanity is a pinprick still, but what I did is I finally realized what was going on. I gently took them out of their deal and they do have roots. They just can't, those little seeds, like the petunia we got, they just can't, it's too coarse, too hard for them. So I put them in some really good BMX 6 or BM6. BMX is a bicycle. BM6 is a brand of potting soil, it's commercial. Anyway, I put them in that, transplanted all those little babies with that tool that we love so much, that
Right.
plastic tool.
The little dibby?
Little dibby. I used my little dibbies. And so I stuck them in the greenhouse and they're doing a lot better. So I'm way behind, but I had also tried this other seed starting soil and everything came up fine with it. But I've just got some, like my Rudbeckia is really slow. I repotted all of my echinaceas. They're tiny, but they're coming back. So, plus it was cold here. It was really cold here for weeks, even in the greenhouse. So there you go. So, other than doing that, I planted up all my pots on the deck, ran to all the different local nurseries, garden coached a lady, and I can start going back to people's houses now.
All
I'm
right.
better.
That's
Yeah.
excellent.
I did hers via Zoom because she lives in Okarchi, but we've also talked about me coming back later in the summer because she has this really cool house. Can I talk about her house real quick?
Sure can. It's our podcast. We can do whatever we want.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, so she lives in Okarchi, and she and her husband bought the banker. It's from 1932 or something, and it's the banker's house, which people who live in Oklahoma know what happened in 1932 to all the farmers. The bankers took over all their land because they had a terrible drought. And she says, I kind of feel bad about that part of it, but the house is really cool. And
Cool.
it's got these three arches in the front. It's made of native stone. It's just a really cool house. Has these landscaped gardens that the wife of the banker died before he got into the house.
Uh-huh.
So the wife is the one who employed the landscape architect in the 1930s to design these gardens. And
Cool.
apparently there's still some stuff there. So um, it was fun. It was fun. And you know what one of the plants was that was still there, even all these years later? Ready? Bridal wreath spirea. Of course
Oh,
it
yeah.
was. You
Yes.
can't kill bridal wreath spirea if you try.
No.
So we're removing those from the front and we're going to put in some incredible hydrangeas because her house
I'm
faces
sorry.
east. I'm so
Back up,
excited.
D. Back up.
Yes. What?
You're going to remove a plant that's been there for almost 100 years just because.
No, I'm moving it because removing it because they're all around the house. She doesn't need them in the front.
Okay. Just want to make
Trust
sure you
me.
leave some.
Oh Lord, there's so many. Okay, and so let's see. I put out my plants on the deck. I helped Bill yesterday fix the fountain. I went twice to Lowe's on a Saturday, which is my,
Oh,
yeah, the worst, the worst. But I was standing in line and this lady kept looking at me and I was like, uh-oh. And she came running up and it was the most hilarious thing. And she was really sweet. She was like, I know you. And I said, You do? And she said, You're D Nash. And it just got funnier and funnier from there. Because then the lady behind me goes, Are you on TikTok? I said, No, I refuse to get on TikTok. I do not need one more place to do anything. And she goes, Wait a minute, I already follow you on Instagram. You mean you're her? So it ended up being this little party in my line, which made
love
me
it.
laugh. Yeah, it was really fun. They're listeners of the podcast too. And
Hey,
let's see, we did get the fountain fixed finally. I planted my tomatoes. So people, you can plant your tomatoes in Oklahoma
not in
if you want
Indiana.
to. There might be one more 41, but they'll be
Not in
okay.
Indiana. We're not even close.
No, don't do it in Indiana. And then I planted a bunch of new herbs, and there's a whole bunch of different local nurseries and also Westlake Hardware, which I sort of consider local, even though it's not. They're carrying all kinds of new herbs this year, things you've never seen. And it's really kind of fun. Stevia, all kinds of things. I grew clary sage from seed, and I've got two plants, so they're getting ready to go out. And I didn't find African blue basil. I haven't found it anywhere, but I did find a holy basil, Tulsi, which we talked about the other day. And I
Fun.
planted two of those. Yeah, that is fun.
So
That's it.
my clary sage, this is its second year, so it should bloom. And I have some nice sized plants out there in the garden. So it should bloom this year since it's a biennial.
Yeah, mine will just sit there for a year, but that's okay.
Well, I'm told that, they can be kind of invasive. So I'm like, well, so far not so invasive, but we shall see. Have I
We'll
have
see.
have I brought upon myself another plague? We shall see.
And while I was at the doctor's office, I have a sad thing to report. The
Uh-oh.
landscapers came and blew the leaves, which I didn't know they were going
Ah,
to do. Remember all that stuff I said about how I have to gently take out the leaves so my daffodils look
I
good?
bet they didn't.
No, my daffodils are all on the side and a bunch of them are still blooming. They even blew the mulch out of my potager. They blew mulch everywhere. I was very upset, and I don't normally get upset. So I was like, I have to go back and buy some more mulch for my potager because I use that landscapers mix in it, and it's
Uh-huh.
really pretty little fine pine. It's gone. And yeah, there's nary a leaf in my garden now, which was not the point. So they are banned. They are banned from walking in my garden because they stepped on a bunch of new plants, including the ones from Peace Valley Farm, which are it's a
So they're only
Nepeta.
allowed to mow.
They can only mow. They can blow slightly away from my gardens. They cannot blow my gardens. The end. Whew, that's a
Well,
big update.
that is sad. And you had texted me that, and I was like
I
sad for you.
did. I texted
Um,
Michelle too. I just sent her the screenshots and I go, I don't want to talk about it. And she goes, Okay, then Tuesday, I guess I'll come see you. I was like, Oh, okay.
yes, and for
Yeah.
our listeners, Michelle is your garden helper.
Yeah. She comes not that often, but she's coming now because we have to fix what they messed up. Okay.
So let's take this in a whole new direction and talk about favorites.
All right, your turn. I talked too much.
So I'm going to go with my Lady Jane tulips, which are out in a bed in the back. And these are pink in the bud, and then they open in their white
Pink and
inside.
white.
Yes, they're
Mm-hmm.
beautiful. They are multiplying out there. Every year I get a few
Golly.
more, and I'm like, I am so happy with you all. So happy. But anyway, that's going to be my favorite, Lady Jane tulips. And
Okay,
there's a
for
lot to
people in
choose from right now.
Oklahoma, I I could not get them to come back. I mean, they didn't come back. They came back 1 year and that was it. All right, I have a favorite view because there's just too many things to love this week. So this is my favorite view and I have a picture of it and I will post it in our newsletter. When you are looking up the tiered beds on the side of the deck, there's this beautiful view of creeping phlox at the bottom, double tulips, which that's where I'm going to plant my tulips from now on because there's concrete block around it and the voles can't get in there and eat them.
Cool.
So those tulips did great. Tulips, and then you look further up and there's phlox, woodland phlox behind it, and then my Miss Kim lilac is behind that. It's like, and it's a view I planned, which that doesn't happen very often.
It's good when things work out.
Yep. So question of the week.
So I had several questions I noted.
Yes, you
So
did.
last Thursday, the uh, Garden Club of Indiana had their state convention, and I did not really attend. But I did go sit at the registration desk for a couple of hours to help out. My garden club was in charge of that. And
Yep.
I sat with one of my garden club friends and I said, we'll just talk about gardening for 2 hours. It's the second day of a 2-day conference. Who's going to stop by? We did have some people stop by. But anyway, she planted a bunch of daffodils around some of her trees and she said they did not bloom this year. And she is
Hmm.
wondering why. And so we kind of looked it up. She said the bulbs were normal size. This time of year they wouldn't be in the shade because the trees haven't really leafed
Mm-mm.
out. That's not under pines.
Under trees is a great place for daffodils.
So, she's just gonna kind of watch and see what happens next year. I mean, it just could be she didn't think
I,
she planted them too late. So,
you know what? I, I've had that happen occasionally. Within the
daffodils are
next,
gonna do what they daffodils are gonna daffodil.
yeah, the secret is plant several kinds. Um, you know what? They'll bloom next year. I just
I,
almost betcha.
I bet so too.
Then someone sent us a chat question and they
Yes,
said, would you grow grafted tomatoes again? And what say you, Carol?
I would grow grafted tomatoes again. Now, what I also would say is they had their moments several years ago, but I don't, as a rule, see them very often anymore.
And I would say that I would not grow them again because I did not think the performance was that much better than the tomatoes I just grew. And truthfully, there are so many varieties of tomatoes now. Unless you're trying to grow one like, say, mortgage lifter, for example, that in your climate needs a different rootstock because it just won't get its stuff together. They're also extremely expensive and they're
They
really
are.
fragile. That graft is very fragile because tomatoes are really fragile when you put them in the ground anyway. And so I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
I
Now
had
I
them
do.
snap off in the wind.
Yeah, I do have a side by side comparison of grafted Roma and seed grown Roma. And that particular year, Romas were hit with a lot of blight and things, and the grafted one did look much, much
Didn't
better. So,
much better.
also, if you do tend to have a lot of problems in your garden with blights and things like that, then I would try grafted. But you could also
Yeah.
just try a pot of soil, a big pot.
Yeah, you could do it in a big pot. Always plant your tomatoes in different spots
Exactly.
too. Okay, and then we got a request for a link to the stand up dandelion weeder from Groot Pow. And so you got it and you're going to add it to the show
I
notes,
will add it
right?
to the show notes. I have barely had a chance to use it, but
It works.
it
We
it
know it
does.
works.
Yeah, it works.
Okay, so you asked also, do we want an update on your sister's lawn woes? Yes, we do.
So for those who've missed the last two episodes, basically my sister and her daughter's lawns are dead, and they're the only ones dead in the neighborhood. They share in
Mhm.
common a lawn service. Soil tested out just fine. Extension agent said soil test is fine. The lawn service company came out and they said, well, probably drought last fall. And they're like,
Mm,
really? Nobody else? Nobody else? Nobody else?
Uh-uh.
He says,
It's
well,
a it's
just
a
sometimes you're unlucky. And so they said, well, they have to talk to their husbands. In the meantime, they have gotten grass seed and they are working on clearing off the dead stuff and sowing grass seed and getting a lawn established for the spring.
and they're going to use a different lawn service probably, right?
Yes, and that lawn service, to my knowledge, didn't even ask would you like us to put down lawn service? But this is interesting. So she sent me what the extension guy that's in charge of turf, he sent back like a seed mix to use. And he said, and this is kind of I ascribe to this as well. You don't need lawn care service in the spring. You
Nope,
don't need fertilizer. The best time to fertilize the lawn is like
the
maybe
fall.
late fall, two applications late fall. And I always thought that was the case too. So anyway,
Hmm. Because the kind of that's true here for shady lawns, although they say you can do late fall, early spring, late winter here because it's fescue usually and it grows all winter long, you know. With Bermuda, the truth is you don't need to fertilize at all. It's going to
no.
grow, period. So I don't know. I mean, I still think they killed her lawn. I put down
Yeah.
seed and with a little bit of fertilizer mixed in, that was a shade lawn seed, and I just spread it, and they blew it off with the leaves. So I have to do it again.
Well, I will
Or
say this is the last thing I would say about lawns is I've not put any fertilizer on my lawn for an entire year now. And I
yeah,
dare anybody to go by my lawn and say, oh, that one hasn't been fertilized for a year because it
right.
looks the same.
We know for a fact that lawns get over fertilized
They
because
do.
it runs into groundwater. So there you go. I don't use my lawn company. We just use them for mowing and weed eating and edging. Um, and I guess blowing the leaves, but that will never happen again. So they don't fertilize my lawn. And the running joke is Luz comes over and he goes, I know you like the natural look, which means the weeds bug him, but he knows how I am. I love the weeds. In fact, my back lawn right now next to the boxwoods, where is next to the backside of the potager, it's almost all clover now. It pleases me to no end. I could care less. All right,
I
moving
love
on.
clover. It's all clover.
I
There's a
do
lot of
too.
clover in the back. Anyway,
I
let's
love
do a
clover.
quote. And I will do a quote and then we will talk about flowers. The
Okay.
words you speak become the house you live in. And that is by Hatz, Haetz. True enough.
Yes, it's true. Flowers. We're doing F this week, and F is for, and you said Forsythia,
Yes, which I had a professor in college who said the shrub was named after Dr. Forsyth or Mr.
right?
Forsyth. And so we
Right.
should be properly pronouncing it Forsythia
Forsythia? Oh, and we all
because it's
pronounce
named
it
after somebody's last
Forsythia.
name is Forsyth. Forsyth.
Ah, got it, got it, got it. Um, and I was looking something up while you were talking because you were going to say, what kind of Forsythias do you have?
So I have one called Gold Tide, which grows maybe 2 feet tall and is kind of a spreader. I can just yank out where it's spread beyond where I want it to grow. And it
Hmm.
flowers in the spring and it's really rather unremarkable other than those 2 weeks when it's flowering in the spring. And I did clip off a few branches of it, which was, because it's so short, they're not very big branches, and brought them in and forced them into bloom. And I thought, well, that's nice.
Yeah, I mean that they have their moment in the sun and then they're done. I have show off. I have two show offs, and show off has more blooms per stem than the norm. And then now they've come out with something called show off sugar baby, which is small like your gold, whatever you said it was, gold tide. It's a little bitty thing. So those are some options if you want to. I also wanted to point out, I said I went to look up exactly where Lucy lives. So Lucy, she's a big landscape designer in New York, not New York City, but part of New York. And she did an Instagram reel on how forsythia is now invasive in her state. And I think it is invasive. Yeah, that's what she said.
Huh.
I don't think the new ones would be because I don't think they set seed, but apparently It's invasive, and I didn't know that. And so it's not invasive in our states. But one of the things she suggested you talked about too, which is clove currant.
Yeah,
But here's
clove
the
currant.
problem with clove currant. You have to be careful with it back east too, because it carries some kind of rust that can be a problem for something, but I don't live over there, so I don't care. Over here, it is just fine to have it. And it smells really good, and it has yellow blooms too, and they last about the same as Forsythia.
Yeah, now the Forsythia does not have any scent. And so here's what I would say. I would give people three pieces of advice on Forsythia.
Okay.
Number one, buy a shrub that you can allow it to grow to its natural shape. So often they're trained as little balls or boxes or whatever and prune. Get one where like this one that grows 2 feet tall. I don't have to do a bunch of pruning. Occasionally have to kind of rein it back in by pulling out some of the suckers, but buy one that's the size you want it to be so you don't have to prune.
Because they look dumb if you prune them. They
Yeah.
they look because they do the same thing Bridal Veil Spirea does because of the way they bloom along that stem and it's supposed to hang down naturally. When you prune them, they just have blops of yellow here and there, and it looks
Yes.
funny.
The second thing I would say is uh, look for newer varieties. I don't know that Gold Tide is that new of a variety, but there is some breeding going on and they're producing bigger, yellower flowers.
Hmm.
So look for new varieties because some of the old varieties, I did have one that I bought eons ago and it was a dud, a bit barely flowered, and it was in full sun. There was no reason for it not to flower, but it was a poor flower and it is long gone.
Yeah, I love show off. I think show off's a great plant. I have
And
really good luck with it.
and number three is I would plant it as part of a mixed shrub border so that
Hmm.
when it's not doing its thing 50 weeks out of the year, you've got other
Right.
things that are attractive. And so it's just a nice backdrop for something else.
Yeah, because it's boring.
It is boring.
Yeah, except in early spring when everybody needs color.
Now,
So there you go.
I did note that the foliage can turn sort of a maroonish purple in the fall, but not
Does
so
it?
much that you're going like, wow, look at that foliage. Just sort of
I,
like
d-
gracefully goes
I
off into the fall.
I've never noticed it having any color at all, so that's fascinating. All right, so let's move on to another F. Ferns. Let's talk about ferns. And first of all, let's talk about our native fern. One
Yes.
of them. We have more than one native fern, but I love this native fern. It is our native northern maidenhair fern. I went and looked it up. It's called Adiantum pedantum. And so it has beautiful black stems that come up in the spring, and then it turns into these lovely little delicate lace-like leaves. And I
Uh-huh.
promise you, I border all my shade gardens with it. I learned that from my friend Wanda Faller because she gave me my first selection of it. And over the years, I've just let it multiply around the garden. So people ask me about it at length when they come visit. They're like, oh my word, what is that bordering plant? And I'm like, it's our native northern maidenhair fern. Beautiful thing.
Now, native to Indiana, I looked it up. I had this and I believe it probably dried out and disappeared 2012 when we had the big drought and it was dry on
Mhm.
2011. And it's the ostrich fern. It's
I used to
Ma-
have ostrich fern.
Matutia struthiopterus, whatever. Um,
I think you got really close.
I didn't look that up either, but it prefers shade and moisture,
Moist.
and I
Hmm.
had it on the north side of my house, and I just don't think it got a lot of the moisture that it needed. So
There you
that's
go.
that. Now, do you know how ferns reproduce, Dee?
I do, but you're going to tell everybody.
Yeah,
They don't have seeds.
I bought the Big Bad Book of Botany,
Hmm.
and he's got it in here.
They have spores.
Here's the typical life cycle of a fern, and I quote, "The plant produces a small, flat, delicate structure, sometimes looking like a thread, called a prothallus. Here it enters into the diploid phase, where it produces haploid spores or egg cells with a single set of chromosomes.
Yep.
These cells divide in a process called meiosis, which reduces the chromosomes by half. In the next phase, the spores undergo cell division or mitosis, growing into haploid gametophytes, which then go through mitosis once more, producing both egg and sperm on the same prothallus. The sperm portion of the plant then fertilizes the egg, which stays connected to the prothallus. Once fertilized, the spore is ready to produce another sperm,
Another fern.
another fern.
Okay, okay, well, there you go.
So
I thought
anybody was
that,
wondering, anyway, I just thought that was hilarious because the next thing he wrote was simple, but not really.
yeah, simple but not really is right.
It's
So,
the process is called sporogenesis, yet another example of nature's amazing ability to foster species under virtually any conditions.
nature's
And
amazing.
ferns were some of the first plants on Earth.
That's why they produce their own whole thing. They don't need pollinators.
No.
So, that's why, yeah, well, I won't go there because it'll just make us too long. All right. And then I also have another fern that is called a sensitive fern, and I did not look up the botanical name. That thing tries to take over, and Wanda gave me that fern too. So I am constantly pulling and digging it out of the ground. But let me say this about it. It is not invasive. It's not even super aggressive. It might be aggressive for a fern, but it's not that aggressive. So it can add a lot of texture to your shade garden. And depending on the size of the fern, it can add a lot of balance and symmetry and all kinds of things because you need some stuff going on. And I've just had a thought, I'm going to put that sensitive fern down by my pond and see if it likes it. It might like it there. So ferns are beautiful and we love ferns. And then you wanted to talk about the Japanese painted fern.
Yeah,
It's a little
this
hard to
this
grow here.
it's very hard to grow anywhere. It's uh
So
anth
slow.
Anthurium niponicum pictum.
Yeah. Nippon
And
for Japanese. Yeah.
I I got this one as a trial plant several years ago, and it's in shade. I think it could use a little bit more moisture than it's getting because
Oh.
it really has done not much of anything. And I won't say who sent it to me, but I thought I knew who sent it to me, and I looked on their website and they're not selling it. And I thought that's
Mm.
interesting.
That happens a lot to some of these plants. They put them out into trial gardens and then they get taken over by other things. Um, I
Or
have
they're
three,
dud.
or they're dead. I have three painted ferns, and I can tell you they just sit there. They're not happy. So just something
No.
to think about. Okay, anything else you want to say?
The thing you can say about ferns is shade and moisture. That's what their happy spot is. And if you're not sure what kind of a hanging basket to get for your porch or whatever, and it's got some shade,
Oh,
the
you're talking
Boston
about Boston
fern.
ferns. Yeah, everybody
Very
loves those.
ubiquitous this time of year.
Oh, they're everywhere. Um, People walking out with them, and they're hard to keep alive in Oklahoma, but people do it. I was also going to say I need to go over there and water that shade garden because the maidenhair fern, the northern maidenhair fern, it can handle some dryness, which the other ones don't like at all. Are we
We have
through with
just barely
ferns?
scratched the surface of ferns, but we are moving on to a quote to talk about vegetables.
Children still need a childhood with dirt, mud, puddles, trees, sticks, and tadpoles. That's by Brooke Hampton. And you said, did I have play in the mud as a child? Oh yeah. Yeah, I
Oh
had a
yeah,
whole
me
mud
too.
hole. There was a little area that was really a little garden area next to a sidewalk. And my mom was not a gardener, so it was my mud hole. And I just played and played and played in it. Loved me some roly-polies and
We played
tadpoles.
we played in the creek.
Yeah, we had a creek too. We loved that thing. And I tried to give that kind of childhood to my kids. I think I did. All right, vegetables. We're still in the F's. And you brought up fennel. Of course you did, because fennel is amazing and delicious. And it's Feniculum vulgare variety azuricum. And so vulgare means common.
That's the green fennel, and it only grows to about 2 feet tall, I found out. But it's also, if you're going to make um,
Absinthe?
absinthe,
It's
the
absinthe,
green,
isn't it?
huh?
Isn't it
I
absinthe?
absinthe or absinthe. Yeah, it's the green, highly alcoholic green liqueur
It's
that
gross.
seems to have been loved in the Victorian era and the early 20th century. And so
Mm.
on Wikipedia, they list It was really opposed by social conservatives and prohibitionists because it was part of the Bohemian culture. And then it listed notable absinthe drinkers: Ernest Hemingway, Lewis Carroll,
Ugh.
Henry Toulouse-Lautrec. Listen to me butcher those names. James Joyce. And so, yeah. Anyway, but it is a tender perennial, and Burpee says it will self-sow in your garden. I have not grown green fennel or
I've grown
bronze
it.
fennel.
I've grown them both. You want to know? It
Sure.
does. It reseeds in your garden very easily. So does bronze fennel. Um, So it makes a bulb, the green fennel does, and
Yes.
you can shave that bulb and make it, put it into salads or make a salad out of it. It's really popular right now. And my husband hates it, so I don't grow it much anymore, but I do love it because in the bulb is very, very mild. And but I still grow the bronze, and I actually dug up two plants and put them on the other side of the deck from the front flower bed. And it grows really tall, blooms yellow, does not form a bulb, but it does definitely reseed, so keep that in mind. But it is wonderful, and if you're in the garden, you can just break a piece of it off and chew the fronds, and it's delicious and it looks great in flower bouquets. They both do, frankly.
Yeah. And I just have not just not grown it. And by the way, I won't bore you with it, but they in this book, which I am really enjoying, they do have a chapter on fennel. That's probably where I got the idea about the booze, that in Wikipedia. But the
Probably.
bronze fennel is the Funiculum vulgare purpureum, like you
Right.
said. And the other good reason to plant this in your garden, Dee, and why I might be tempted to plant this:
Black swallowtails.
black swallowtail butterflies. It's a host
It's
plant
a
for
host
them.
plant. Hmm. Very much so. And in fact, I moved them off of my dill. All of the swallowtails will eat it. And so if you move like the eastern tigers off of stuff and move it over there in case you're having wasp problems, they do just fine. They can kind of hide in that bronze fennel. I think there's too many fronds for the
Yeah, I
creatures
might,
to
if
get
I
them.
see a plant, I might keep my eye out for a plant. Now, the seeds have got to be the tiniest little things because there's 400 in a packet, Burpee says.
Yeah, there's a lot. I grew it from seed first, and then I've always had it ever since. And
Yeah.
also, if you're going to grow the regular fennel, you want to harvest it pretty young. When I first grew it, I didn't know. It was
Uh-huh.
I didn't know how to harvest it, and it got huge, and that was not good.
Yeah, because that root thing would get all woody and stuff. It wouldn't be very
Yeah,
good.
wouldn't be good, and that's the part you eat the most. Are we going to talk about fava beans? Because I've never grown them.
I
You
thought you
thought I
had grown
had.
them. When I put this on the list, you said, I've grown fava beans. We are going to talk about it because I
No,
looked
I
it up.
didn't.
I looked it up. They're basically broad beans.
Yep.
Vicia faba, very French, but
Hmm.
when I looked them up on True Leaf Market, they sell it first as a cover crop because it is a legume, so it would fix nitrogen in the soil. So it would be good if you have poor soil. They also
Hmm.
sell it for microgreens, and then you can buy the actual beans. But they said it's great for restorative properties as its fruiting crop harvested can become world famous creamy and nutty faba beans. Uh,
I heard they're wonderful. I've never had them. Never eaten them, never grown them.
the thing I think about with fava beans is they like it on the cool side. They're 80 to 90 days to harvest.
Yep.
And so when you say likes it on the cool side, right away we've struck Dee's garden off the list.
Pretty much, yeah.
And I
Because it's
always
not, and also the long, it's too long for it to be that cool.
Yeah, and I always think about people who have very mild climates. Like our friend Leslie out in California, she used to sow fava beans pretty early in the
Hmm.
season, but she was in the Sacramento area.
Yeah, totally different thing. So if you want to get some after that wonderful resounding yay,
Bleh,
um,
bleh.
bleh, True Leaf Market has them as a cover crop, and I'm sure you can find them other places too. I did write about them for my book because my editor wanted me to, so I did.
Very good. I'll do a quote. We'll go to the bookshelf when we get the
Okay.
book. Stopping something that is no longer good for you is not quitting. It is pruning. It is strengthening. It is making room for new growth. And that is from Hera Mindful Healing. We found that you found that on the Facebook.
Yeah, I think I did. And then our book is The Generosity of Plants, Shared Wisdom from the Community of Herb Lovers, gathered by Rosemary Gladstar. And Rosemary Gladstar is a renowned herbalist. And this is just the best little book. This came to us from Story Publishing. Thank you, Story.
Yes. Yeah, we got
And this
review
is
copies at our request when we saw it.
this is the most beautiful little book. We held it up. It's got ferns all on the front of it, which is it's
Coincidentally.
and it's a great gift book. And then inside, it's got all of these amazing quotes. And they're all about nature and they're in specific areas. Let me look up the beginning part of it.
Well, and then in the featured voices section in the back, I mean, it's people we've heard of, such as Wendell Berry. A lot of
Yep,
these I haven't heard of, but I'm certain that this would be like a giant rabbit hole of people to look
fun.
up. John Muir, Georgia O'Keeffe, Aldo
Mhm.
Leopold, Susan Leopold, Gertrude
I'm gonna
Jekyll.
I'm gonna read one of the quotes out of it that's toward the back is so beautiful. There's two of these. So the first one is the secrets are in the plants. To elicit them, you have to love them. That's George Washington Carver. And then this one is I think healing starts and ends with loving each other and with caring for each other as much as we care for ourselves. It's the golden rule. It's the way it works in medicine, in politics, in every aspect of life. That would be my wish for the people. If I had no other words to say, to love one another, and that's Dr. William Mitchell. I'm not sure I agree with him on the politics part, but we
Well,
don't get
then
political on this
the
podcast, so
we don't. The it's beautifully illustrated.
it is. It is the most beautiful book. There's whole sections with flowers. It's got beautiful green pages. A perfect Mother's Day gift. A
Yes.
perfect gift for the gardener in your life. And whether your mother gardens or not, there's enough stuff in here. There's sections on that are other than gardening.
Yeah. It's
Like
just a
there's
really
honoring our elders, which is lovely. Has a quote from Robin Wall Kimmerer. Everybody loves her. Um, just beautifully written. Reverence for the earth. Like I said, a beautiful Mother's Day gift, a beautiful gift in a basket for someone who had a new home, you know,
right.
that
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yes. And
It's
so, yes.
lovely.
And that is The Generosity of Plants, Shared Wisdom from the Community of Lovers, gathered by Rosemary Gladstar. We'll put links in our show notes. And thank you again to Story who sent us these lovely copies. I'm taking this to Garden Club tomorrow, by the way, as one of the books, because I take
I'm
books to them.
I'm keeping mine
Well,
because
I'm
I'm
not going to give it to Garden Club. I'm going to
oh
take it and
good,
say,
good. I was
hey,
like,
have a
well, you're
look
nicer
see.
than
I
you can look
do,
at this, but I want it back.
yeah, I do. Sometimes I say I'm taking that back today. And then sometimes I'm like, if you want to borrow that for a month and bring it back, that's fine too. So
Julio.
I might let
Okay,
him borrow this one for a month. I'll see. We'll
I
see.
would not. All right, the quote. April is a moment of joy for those who have survived the winter. Samuel Johnson. From the way it looks up northeast, they got another dose of winter. Did you see the
Ah,
snow?
no, but
Yeah.
I'm sure it's horrible.
And it's
April snow
cold where you,
is.
it was like 9 inches somewhere. I was like, good Lord, that's too much. Okay, our dirt. You're going to do our dirt because you went and did some book you listened to.
So I listened to a book. It's called Ice: From Mixed Drinks to Skating Rinks, A Cool History of a Hot Commodity by Amy Brady. And so I listened to this. Amy reached out to me to do like an interview over
Mhm.
email for her Substack. And I said, sure. And I looked her up and she writes a lot of scientific American and she writes for different publications like that. Anyway, she researched and I don't have it because I checked it out from the library, but it's quite a fun book to listen to if you ever want to know the entire history of ice. And just imagine trying to take ice and get it without refrigeration down to the tropics and try to sell the natives on the value of ice.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. But she talks about, harvesting ice in the winter to where people then could make ice and, the ice wars, I guess, in New York City, like I want to say mob type activity, trying to corner the market. And
You know, Europeans still don't do much ice in their
No,
drinks.
no.
They like
She,
everything kind of lukewarm.
yeah,
And I'll be honest, not my deal. I like my stuff cold.
she talked about curling that's done on the ice, ice hockey, ice skating. I mean, it was really a lot more to it than you would think. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I thought, well, that'll be our dirt.
That's a
Just,
great dirt.
just imagine this though.
What?
That ice that they harvested, sometimes it was dirty from
Of
those
course it
rivers and
was
stuff.
because it wasn't filtered at all. Yeah.
No. And our president, George Washington, had a huge ice storage house area because he was a big fan of ice cream.
Oh, of course it was. Yeah.
They made ice cream out of it. That was the big deal. So I don't know, it was interesting. You will never look at ice the same after if you listen to it or read it.
Cool. I like it. Okay, rabbit holes. I first said I've been too busy for a rabbit hole,
But
but then
first
I
I have to do a
realized,
quote. I have to do a
oh, I'm
quote.
sorry, I went over your quote deal. Go ahead.
April hath put a spirit of youth in everything. And that is William Shakespeare in one of his sonnets, sonnet number 98. Is that right?
I think so.
Now you
Okay.
can go.
So at first I said I was too busy for a rabbit hole, but then I thought of one. So I'm trying to find this plant that
Yeah.
I saw in my daughter's garden, and it's an ajuga. And I finally identified it because she identified it. She had kept her receipts for taxes, and she found it on her receipt, and she got it at Terracotta last year. So I'm going to run up to Terracotta after we get done and see if it's there. It is called Feathered Friends Cordial Cherry Ajuga, and it is lime green, and then it has beautiful blue flowers, and it spreads really well, which some ajugas spread better than others. Like black scallop spreads better than chocolate chip, for example. The rose one, not so spready. So this one really spreads well, and I was like, what is that? I mean, like I did a like thing with my head, double take when I saw it in her garden. And she goes, oh yeah, I bought that last year. And I was
With
like, okay, I gotta have it. I did find a link for it on Great Garden Plants, but I don't want to pay that for it. So I'm going to go to Terracotta and try to find it.
and every other plant in your garden is going, really, Dee? Look at us. We're pretty. You thought we were special once now, but you're going to leave us again and you're going to go off and you're going to buy another plant. I hope there's
Yeah,
room for it.
because I bought a lavender yesterday that's a variegated blonde lavender.
I
I mean,
bought that last year.
did you? And you
Yes.
liked it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was looking the other day and I think it's coming back, so that's good.
Yeah, that is good. I put mine in a pot so I can take it inside. Is it a English lavender or a French lavender, or I didn't really look it
I
up.
don't
I
know.
was at Lowe's. I was trying to hurry because I was supposed to fix that
I saw
fountain.
it on Instagram and Dee, I did not pay that much for it.
Well, mine's big. It's a great big
Mine was in
thing.
a gallon container.
This is a 2 gallon.
Oh, well, la ti da ti da ti da. I'm gonna
That
do
means
my rabbit hole.
it's another year older. So of course it was more expensive. Keep going.
So remember last week's rabbit hole when I said,
Yes, the
buckle up?
cult.
Anyway, turns out somebody wrote an entire book. The Allure of Immortality, an American Cult, a Florida Swamp, and a Renegade Prophet by Lynn Milner. My library had it, and it's been on the shelf for a while, and it looks like nobody's checked it out in forever. And so look. So
This is about old Hedwig.
I went right to the chapter on Hedwig. And by the way, in here she says Hedwig pronounced her last name Mitchell.
Mitchell, which is different how we
So
pronounce it.
yes, and she has a chapter very much about Hedwig. And then I found some other stuff and I thought she does qualify to be a lost lady of garden writing. I've already written the article. It's coming out on Wednesday morning. So, and then because I'm down in my PD James era now. You said I would like her books.
You do, don't you?
I
They're
finished up,
clever.
huh?
They're clever.
Well, I finished her first detective story, as they say in Britain, not mystery, detective story. Cover Her
Sure.
Face.
Yep.
I'm reading her
I've read
autobiography,
it.
Time to Be Earnest. Have you read that?
No, I've not.
It's very good. It's written, like a daily diary, and then she reminisces and stuff. So that's been really good. Um, And I'm listening to her dystopian novel, The Children of Men. And let me tell you, Dee, she wrote this thing in, I want to say 92.
Hmm.
Very disturbing because
Yeah,
it
it
takes place
is.
like in 2024, 2025. It's like, oh,
Oh,
this,
nice.
this is disturbing. This is disturbing. Because, well, one of the things they were trying to entice people to move to the cities where they could guarantee that they would get utilities and things like that, that if they stayed in their small, out in the country or smaller places, they couldn't guarantee that they would have utilities. And I
Huh.
thought, huh, that's interesting. That's all I'm saying
Yeah.
about that. Anyway,
Uh-huh.
Lost Ladies is going to be Hedwig Mitchell because she wrote much more than the one article that I found.
I figured she did. So, what's the name of P.D. James's detective in Cover Her
Adam
Face?
Douglas.
Dougleash. Yeah, it's Dougleash. So there's a whole Dougleash series on BritBox that you will enjoy.
You have told me that, and so I do
Hmm.
know that the
I love that one. Yeah.
she named the detective after her English teacher, Miss Douglas, in
Hmm.
high school. And then when she met her later in life to
Hmm.
reminisce, she found out that Miss Douglas's father's name was Adam. She didn't know that when she named her
Oh, how
detective Adam.
cool. That's
Anyway,
interesting.
all kinds of interesting stuff.
Serendipity. So garden commissions. I'm going to keep mulching and working away. I've still got to go through the shade garden, which means full tick full tick armor, hat, spray my ears, all of it. Ugh, I don't want to do it. And what are you going to do?
So it's time to get ready for the big Easter egg hunt in my back
Yep,
garden.
it's Easter. Yep.
I don't think I said I mowed the grass for the first time last week.
We mowed yesterday.
And so I mowed for the first time last week in front only. I haven't mowed in back, and I probably won't mow the back, I think, until after Easter. So the grass will be a little bit taller, which is fine. Those crocuses need to ripen more. I believe I have 9 children hunting this year, which is a new, we had a little dip and now we're going up as the little kids are coming along. So that's fun.
Yeah,
Actually
that's
hired a
fun.
photographer to come for an hour because it's like
Oh,
so
that's
many of my
nice.
siblings, spouses, nieces, nephews, great nieces, great nephews. It's like, let's get some nice pictures. So I got a photographer coming. Let's
Nice.
just pray it doesn't rain. I have a rain plan. If it rains, we're going to go to my sister's clubhouse, but hopefully it won't rain and we can have the party out in my backyard. Because with all those children come all these different adults, and it's like there is not room for that many people here in the house.
Okay.
So,
Well, we're doing Easter too, and all my kids are coming, and we're actually doing it in the evening because it's when they wanted to do it. And I that reminds me, because I was thinking about all your nieces and nephews being in their little Easter finery, and that's the best time to get pictures. And I have a great little Maddie gardening story for next week, since
oh,
our kids
good,
are.
good. So, other than that, I'm gonna weed as I can. Um, I got to go to garden club on Monday. I still have to pot up those elephant ears and caladiums. I'm like, they'll just be further and further behind. But anyway, I
It's
got to put the
okay.
final touches on my presentation for the Herb Society of America. It's like, I'm busy. We got to go. I'm going to wrap this thing up.
Yeah, I've got another garden coaching client too, so there's a lot going on next week.
Thank you for listening to the Garden Angelist. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single episode. We publish every week on Wednesdays at 12 a.m. Eastern Time.
If you subscribe to our free newsletter, you'll get a link to listen to the podcast a whole day early and links to the products we discuss. Some of these are affiliate links. Plus, go over to YouTube and see us in person. Full episodes show up on Tuesdays.
If you want to help support us, use our affiliate links. If you buy something after clicking through on them, we're in a small commission, cost you nothing.
Or you can set up a monthly subscription through Buzzsprout or make a one-time donation through PayPal.
Thank you to everyone who has done so. It helps us pay for podcast hosting.
It was lovely to chat with all of you over the garden gate. Bye until next week.
Bye, everybody.